I stop and get some milk?
We have fresh milk at home, honey.
Oh, okay. Do you think the cows are happy?
Absolutely. Our local dairy farmers work hard to make sure they have the healthiest, happiest life imaginable.
It's like how you care for me.
Oh, thanks, sweetheart. I love you.
I love you too, especially when you give me cookies with my milk.
Sneaky.
When it's farm to family in 48 hours, it's undeniably dairy. A message from your Arizona milk producers.
Lincoln Park. From Zero World Tour 2025. Live in Phoenix. Footprint Center, Saturday, September 6th. With special guest Gene Dawson. Get tickets now at livenation.com. For more, visit lincolnpark.com.
The Season of New Tradition sales event is going on now at Mark Kia.
Receive 0% APR for 72 months on a 2024 Kia EV6.
The name to remember? Mark Kia. Mark Kia. Offer only through Kia Motors Finance. Not all buyers will qualify. Offer expires January 2nd, 2025.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like
We welcome you into the Tuesday edition of the Lunch Break. Chris Schubert here with you. Got you for the next 2 hours. KDUS AM 1060. Boy, does it feel like a holiday week here in this building. I find myself walking out into the hallway, and I think some tumbleweeds kind of go through the hallway. Not a lot of people in the building getting ready for Thanksgiving. We've got you today and tomorrow. Then we're out the rest of the week. So we are going to jam into the next 2 days worth of programming, basically everything we would do between the Tuesday and Friday editions of the show. So buckle up. Hopefully you are able to join us here for the next 2 hours today and tomorrow, because we got a lot of stuff to get into. And the most important thing we are going to do all day today, back by popular demand, because everybody loved it when we did the Halloween candy edition of this. At the end of hour number one of the show, producer Corey and myself are going head-to-head in a draft of Thanksgiving sides. That's right. We are going to do a draft here on the Tuesday edition of the show.
Yes, and just the sides here too. The turkey is implied.
I got to tell you, you can keep the turkey. You can do whatever you want with it. I like turkey, but if you told me, and I will tell you my Thanksgiving this year, not doing turkey, doing something different.
Okay.
All the sides are still going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm happy. You're going to give me the same sides, and I am not going to tell you what sides I'd like to be there, because that would be giving away free information for the draft a little bit later on here on the show. So I'm not going to do that. You'll have to tune in at the end of hour number one for that. So we'll do that to close out hour number one. So we've got a lot of football. We've got a big Cardinals game this weekend, a really important Saturday afternoon college football game tonight. A pretty important day in college football. We're doing the Thanksgiving sides draft. A lot of stuff to do, but it is where we start today with basketball.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
That's right. We have reached that moment. I'm sure many of you thought we were never going to see this day because of how bad this looked while these two guys were out. But it was reported yesterday, a little bit after we got off the air, that tonight, when the Phoenix Suns are back in action after having some much-needed time off, they return to the floor for an NBA Cup game against the Lakers tonight. They will be doing so with Kevin Durant and with Bradley Beal in the lineup.
Good for them.
Both of those guys back into the lineup tonight.
It's crazy that they came back so fast.
For the Phoenix Suns. So what probably felt like 3 months There's only a couple of weeks for Kevin Durant. What felt like 3 weeks was only a couple of days for Bradley Beal, but they are both back in this lineup tonight for the Phoenix Suns, and we now get back to being able to evaluate this team correctly.
Yeah, we can exhale, and so can the Suns' record.
Well, that's true. 9-7, currently sitting in the play-in portion of the Western Conference playoffs as we sit here today. Very nice that they got off to that 8-1 start to be able to build up this cushion to weather this storm. And I don't know if you could say they weathered the storm. They lost, 5-6 in a row going into tonight's contest. So it's not like they were able to deal the counterpunch during this stretch. They just kind of got through it. And here we are tonight with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal back in the lineup tonight for the Phoenix Suns. And we saw when these guys were on the floor together, when they were healthy, we saw how good this team could be. 8-1 to start the season. Really good in the fourth quarter. Really good down the stretch. And then Kevin Durant got hurt. Shortly after that, Bradley Beal went down, and the proverbial wheels fell off this car very quickly. And we pushed back on this show about panicking. We pushed back against the idea of saying that this team can't go anywhere. It was an unfair evaluation to look at this team without Kevin Durant and without Bradley Beal and really glean anything from it. And that's not a great way to be able to watch basketball. It's not necessarily, it doesn't make the days where the Suns play, didn't make them any better because you're going into the evening, getting ready to watch the Suns play basketball, and you kind of know what's going to happen. You know that this isn't the group that it's supposed to be, and so if they lose, you can't really be that upset about it, and it just changes the way you watch these games. It changes the way you feel. I don't know if there's the emotional attachment to a team, to a sport, when a bunch of guys are hurt. If Kyler Murray missed a couple of games for the for the Arizona Cardinals, it would change the way you would evaluate those games. You wouldn't really give the Cardinals that much of a chance of winning those football games. And so because of that, you would go into it with the expectation set really low. And so if they did lose, it wouldn't ruin your day. And that's kind of where we got with the Phoenix Suns. It was like, okay, we're just kind of letting the calendar days pass us by. We're just waiting for us to be able to circle the day in the calendar when these guys are back and these guys are in the lineup. Now, the coast isn't clear. These guys have to get back into the lineup. They have to pick up right where they left off. They have to do the work. They put themselves in a advantageous situation early by starting the year 8-1. They've dug themselves a little bit of a hole by giving those games away, now sitting at 9-7 in the play-in portion of the Western Conference playoffs. So they have to do the work to put themselves back where they were at the start of the year, 9 games in. But all in all, despite all of that, the hot start, the injuries, this 2 to 3 week stretch that probably felt like a season in and of itself, they've played 16 basketball games. There's 60 plus of them still left on the calendar. A lot of time left for this team to dig themselves out of this hole. But you're not out of the woods. You hope that these guys aren't coming back too soon. You hope that this is the injury bug that's going to hit this team, because you know with Devin Booker, you know with Bradley Beal, you know with Kevin Durant, these things tend to pop up pretty regularly. Nobody had the expectation when the season started that these three guys would play every single game for the Phoenix Suns. The track record with these guys told us we were not going to have the big three, Booker, Durant, Beal, for all of the regular season. We just knew that going in. The question we have to ask ourselves, and it will only get answered as time goes on, was this the stretch where we were going to be without those guys? Because you saw what it looked like. You don't have two of the big three. You got one guy on an island all by himself. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Devin Booker, superstar. Devin Booker on his own can be the lead alpha dog for a team. This team is built with those three guys in mind. So there is not the auxiliary pieces. There is not the complementary pieces. There's no Robin to Devin Booker's Batman if Durant and Beal are hurt. And so I think tonight we get back. We got sidetracked for a little bit. We had to go on a detour for a little bit. It's like you're going on a road trip and the GPS, it's got to take you a different way because there's a road closure ahead. That's what the Phoenix Suns have been for the last, 7 or 8 games. Just a small little detour. And now it's back on the main highway where previously we were cruising. We were making great time on the GPS. I believe that's my second GPS reference this week.
Seems like it.
Made one yesterday, made another one today. I don't know what it is with me making the car analogy this week, but here we are. It's a weird week. We've got like 1.5 days left. Just buckle up, everybody, okay? I don't know what the next couple days are going to look like show-wise. We could go completely off the rails. Like I said at the top, we have a lot to jam into just the next 2 days. We have to do the Schubert 6 tomorrow, so I got to do the prep work even earlier than normal. There's a lot of weirdness to this week. A lot. We're drafting food in this hour. There's just a lot going on. And that's what holiday weeks provide. Just fun, chaos and fun, and we're going to be all over the place. Should be a lot of fun tonight when the Phoenix Suns are back in action with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, because it now feels true to form. It feels like a fair evaluation. It feels like if they lose tonight to the Lakers, I can come in here and start the show, and I can be mad at the team. I can be angry at the team. We can dissect the performance and talk about it in the big picture. Could we really do that the last couple of games when they didn't have Beal and they didn't have Durant? Could we really do that? Would that be fair to the big picture? Because the big picture for this team is all in the Western Conference playoffs. It is all in the pursuit of winning a championship. That's the big picture. That is the way to view this season. That is the context to view every single game. Is this team on a path to competing for a championship? Is this team championship caliber? That's the lens that we look through this through. If you don't have Durant and you don't have Beal, you're definitely not championship caliber. You're definitely not winning a championship. That's a given. I don't need to watch the games to be able to tell you that. You don't have two of your best players. Entire roster is built around three guys. You lose two of them. That's the story, folks. I mean, that's it. There's nothing to discuss. I don't need to break down fourth quarter defense. I don't need to break down bench scoring, right? Those are things that we need to talk about when everybody's healthy. It's incredibly fair to talk about fourth quarter defense when everybody's on the floor together. It's incredibly fair to talk about where the bench scoring is coming when all three guys are healthy. Those are incredibly fair conversations to have. But when those guys are not healthy, when those guys are not around, they're not fair conversations to have, because you don't have the team the way you built it to win a championship. And there is no pivot. And I think that's the hard reality to this. That's the hard truth. They have built this team in the way that they have built it. And it's a good team. It's a team that you saw over the first 9 games what they are capable of. But it is a team that is built with a lack of pivot options. If they lose Durant or Beal or Booker for an extended period of time, there's nothing that they can do trade-wise. There's nothing that they can do roster-wise. There's really nobody that they can elevate and give increased minutes to, and it's going to replace the production. They are locked in to crashing and burning or succeeding with those three guys, healthy or not healthy. It's that simple. So tonight, after taking the small detour, we get back on track with Durant and Beal back into the lineup, and now we get to evaluate this team the way we were for the first 9 games of the season, and we were very optimistic about the way they were playing over the first 9 games of the season. So we took that small detour, and we are going to get back on track tonight, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of thoughts on tomorrow's show about it after they take on the Lakers. Coming up on the other side, I said yesterday, and I said last week, ASU control their own fate. It was win and you're in. You win both games, and you will be representing in the Big 12 championship game. It's not entirely true. There is one unique scenario that could see the Sun Devils win and still be left out of the Big 12 championship party. We'll talk about that next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back to the program, The Lunch Break, KDUS AM 1060. You want to join the show, 480-864-1060 is the phone number. Also join us on the YouTube side of things. Just search KDUS AM 1060. Subscribe over there, and you can watch the video version of the show, and you can join us over there in the live comments. I apologize in advance for what I'm about to do to everybody here on the show because it's a holiday week. I'm sure most of you that are listening to this show right now, and I don't blame you, you're just counting down the minutes. You're counting down. I know producer Corey is counting down the hours.
Maybe.
I'm going to tell you, I'm doing it. I'm counting down the hours until Thanksgiving. It'll be nice to have 2 days off.
Yeah.
It'll be nice to have would that be one? That'd be a 4-day weekend.
Shocking.
We'll be back in here on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. Spending time with family, watching some football. It's a great time, right? So you're probably not thinking very critically here. You're mailing it in, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We're kind of doing that here on the show today.
It's fine. We've earned it.
Tomorrow's going to be even worse, but I'm just warning you now. So I apologize in advance because you're going to have to do some critical thinking here. There's some math involved with this next topic.
Oh, come on.
Because I told everybody last week that if ASU beat BYU and they beat U of A, they're in. They will be representing in the Big 12 championship game with a chance to go to the college football playoff, which, by the way, tonight we get the most recent updated version of the college football playoff rankings, which will also come with the updated projected bracket. And I'm telling you right now, you are going to have a lot of fun tonight because I don't see a scenario where this isn't the case. ASU going to be ranked as the highest Big 12 team, and they will get that 4 seed in that projected bracket. So shades of 2014, where after beating Notre Dame in the first version of the college football playoff reveal ever, they were 6th. Hopefully it's not as similar to 2014, and they win their following game after that, because they did not do that in 2014. So you have that to look forward to tonight. Well, as it sits right now, and this is where the math is involved, so hopefully you got a notebook out, or you can just pay attention to how I describe this.
Okay.
There are 4 teams currently tied at 6-2 in the Big 12. Arizona State, we know that. BYU, Iowa State, Colorado. Those are also the 4 Big 12 teams that are ranked right now in the AP, and more than likely all 4 of those teams will be ranked in the college football playoff ranking tonight. So those teams all sit at 6-2. 4 teams, we've only got 2 spots, though. We've only got 2 spots. So we have to have tiebreakers. And because we don't have divisions anymore in the Big 12, it's just everybody's lumped together, we've got tiebreakers.
Yeah.
So the Big 12 put out a press release yesterday. So if all 4 teams, and this is, again, I apologize in advance, everybody. If all 4 teams win, all 4 of them win, that means they all get to 7-2 in the Big 12. It is really simple. ASU will play Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. Okay?
Okay.
So that's if all 4 teams win. Let's say, for example, one of the 4 teams loses. Okay? Well, let's say it's Colorado who loses. Well, then it's ASU against Iowa State. So Colorado loses. The rest of the 3 that we mentioned win. ASU's in, no problem. ASU loses. No surprise. They're out. Iowa State loses. The other 3 win. It's Arizona State, BYU in a rematch in the Big 12 title game.
Again?
Okay, so that's some of the 3-team scenarios. If there are 2 teams tied at 7-2, it's pretty simple. The 2 teams that get to 7-2, they're going to get in. The teams that are at 6-3, they are out. There is one scenario where if 3 teams tie, ASU could be one of the teams that ties, and they are left out. So go with me here, folks. Join this journey with me, because if I had to learn this yesterday via the press release, had a conversation with my future father-in-law about it while we were trying to chart out how this was going to work, you have to be subjected to it too. BYU loses. Now, I think it's important to let everybody know who these teams play this weekend. We all know who ASU plays this week. Big game against U of A with everything on the line. BYU plays 4-7 Houston. So not likely that they lose, but for the sake of the show, let's say they lose. If Texas Tech defeats West Virginia, so BYU loses, West Virginia loses. if Baylor beats Kansas and Cincinnati beats TCU, so okay, a BYU loss, a West Virginia loss, a Kansas loss, and a TCU loss, ASU's out even though they win.
This is the worst parlay ever.
That is the only scenario where ASU can win on Saturday and they are out of the Big 12 championship game. So it requires there to be a 3-team tie where 3 of the 4 teams get to 7-2. And the 4th team, the one that loses, is BYU. And then we start that flow chart of looking to see how Texas Tech does against West Virginia, and we go down. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because we have to be fair. It's not a certainty that an ASU win guarantees them a spot. There is a scenario that could play out where they don't get in. So we needed to correct the record. But the other thing that I want to let everybody know, if ASU wins, they're in on Saturday. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. This being the scenario that plays out is incredibly unlikely because BYU can lose. If another one of those teams loses, if Colorado loses or Iowa State loses, then we don't get to play out that 3-team tie scenario. The moment BYU wins on Saturday against Houston, it locks that out. A BYU win means if ASU wins, they're in. Because at worst, you would have a 3-team tie scenario where it would be Colorado or Iowa State being the team that loses. ASU's in both of those scenarios. So it's as simple as if BYU wins, it guarantees that ASU is in with a win. Now, the best part about this, at least in my mind, is that game between Houston and BYU is late in the day. It's 8:15 on Saturday. West Virginia, Texas Tech, one of the games that we need to keep an eye on, that's at 10 o'clock. Same thing with Kansas and Baylor. ASU and U of A kicks off before BYU plays. Now, I'll tell you this. Friday, we'll get at least a glimpse into this. We'll start to be able to rule out something because Colorado plays Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State is 3-8. They have not won a conference game all year. So I wouldn't get your hopes up that Colorado is going to lose at home to Oklahoma State. But we will know. Colorado can be one of the first teams to get to 7-2. And then ASU will be the next team in line, then Iowa State, then BYU. None of these teams play in the same window, so we'll know pretty quickly. But the thing I like about this is when ASU takes the field on Saturday at 1:30, and we'll talk a little bit about this in hour number 2 of the program. We'll preview the game a little bit. When ASU takes the field on Saturday, they're not going to know if they're in or not. Now, we know they need to win. There are some scenarios where if they lose and everybody loses, they can still get in. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. They're going to step on the field, potentially knowing that Colorado already has a win in their back pocket. They've got to 7-2. And that ASU is going to need to win to get to 7-2. And then they're going to have to scoreboard watch. I love that. I love that ASU is going to go into that game not knowing because it is going to make them understand the moment. Because, listen, there are times where you scoreboard watch and you already know when you take the field what's going on in another place. It changes the way you think about a football game. It changes the way you mentally approach things. It can absolutely mess up your mental state going into a game. ASU's not going to have that. They are going to know, taking the field at 1:30 on Saturday on Fox, that they are going to have to win that football game.
And hopefully not embarrass themselves against the school down south.
That's a great point by producer Corey. Don't embarrass yourself as well. We'll talk. That is also a conversation in hour number 2 of the show. Because I think this game is starting to morph and evolve into one of the most important games in a really long time for ASU. And I think it's even more important than last week against BYU. That was important. That was the most important game since 2014. I think this game surpasses that game, which surpasses 2014. And I'll explain why in hour number 2 of the show. But I think that game is growing in magnitude the more and more that I think about it on Saturday. Not just because of who it is. That's obviously part of the recipe. Because it's U of A, because it's a territorial cup, because it's your rival, because there's the Big 12 championship in the balance. But I'll lay this out more in hour number 2. But I think that this game is going to mean a lot more in the bigger picture. Because there's a phrase that people throw around when it comes to ASU, and I think if it's true about this program, Saturday's going to tell us a lot. Saturday's going to be a big indicator. So We had to be fair. Hopefully I didn't confuse you all here on a Tuesday. Hopefully you understood that. Just know if ASU wins and they take care of their business, it is incredibly likely that they will get into the Big 12 championship game. I will tell you that I actually looked into this, and I saw a bunch of stories kind of floating this around.
Yeah.
That if you took those results, so if you put a parlay together and you took ASU winning, you took Texas Tech winning, you took Baylor winning, you took Cincinnati winning, and you took Houston beating BYU, that's the scenario in which ASU can win and still make the ASU can win and still miss out on the Big 12 championship game.
Mm-hmm.
If you put all that into a parlay, the odds were plus 7,700.
Okay.
So that should tell you how unlikely that possibility is. Something along the road there will mess it up.
But what if it hits?
It's possible. Plus 7,700. And maybe you want to protect yourself if you're an ASU fan. You want to just maybe have that sweat on the side. I'm not sure. But that is the only scenario in which ASU, and by the way, that would also require Colorado winning, Iowa State winning, neither one of those teams tripping up as well. So I want to be fair. We needed to give you all of the scenarios. There's one unique scenario in which ASU can win on Saturday and not get in. But at the end of the day, it is this simple. You take care of your business. It is an almost certainty that you're going to be playing in the Big 12 championship game. Just take care of business on Saturday. That's it. That simple. Beat U of A, finish what has been an absolutely incredible season, get to 10-2, get to 7-2 in the Big 12, and probably get the celebration ready because you'll be going to Arlington, Texas to play the Big 12 championship. But we have to be fair on this show. And I said the other day that it was win and you're in, and it's not a certainty. There is one, and that's it. This is literally the only scenario where they don't get in. Coming up on the other side, how about, I know we're doing it a day or two early, but how about we take a first look at the Minnesota Vikings? We'll do it next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back to the show. Lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Appreciate you joining us here. Tuesday, November 26th edition of the show. 15 minutes from now, it is the Thanksgiving sides draft. I got to tell you, there are a couple that are on the do not draft list for me. Not going to share those out loud. Not going to give producer Corey an advantage here in this process.
Yeah, any free picks?
I'm not going to give you any free picks. No, I'm not going to give you any free information. I have... Now, all right, when we did the Halloween one.
Yes.
Did you go first?
No, it was you first.
I went first.
Yes.
So that means you go first in this one.
Okay.
No, I think you went first because I think I had back-to-back picks.
Oh, you did. Yes.
So I think I get to go first now, so
Okay.
you get the back-to-back picks.
It's been almost a month, even though it feels like a week.
Yeah, I know. It feels like we just did it yesterday, but it was literally about a month ago that we did it. So I have the 1-1 ready to go.
Okay.
The card has been submitted to the commissioner of the draft.
Wait, Eisen's not till later.
That's very good. It's very good. I have the first pick ready to go. I have what would be my number 2 pick ready to go. I worry. I worry strongly.
There are less options here than Halloween candy.
I will tell you that the draftable pool of sides, not as big as the Halloween candy.
I will say there is one staple I purposefully left out because I don't really much like it there, so you do have one freebie there.
Right, but you don't know if it's the same. What if I don't like it either?
I don't think you also don't like it.
We don't know. We'll find out when we do that in about 15 minutes or so. It is the Minnesota Vikings next up for the Arizona Cardinals, as they will try to make last Sunday just a blip, not turn it into a streak, not have a 2-game losing streak to fall back to 500 at 6-6. They will try to rebound, and they will travel on the road to a really good Minnesota team. And I think the tough thing about this Minnesota squad to evaluate is you look at their record, and you see a team that's 9-2, and you see a team that any other place except the NFC North, they would be in prime position to be winning a division, hosting a playoff game. They happen to be sharing a division with the Detroit Lions, so they are just keeping pace with a team that is 10-1. We've also got the power rankings in hour number 2 of the show, and I don't think you'll be surprised Detroit's going to stay at number 1, but we'll do the rest of the top 10 in hour number 2 of the show. So Minnesota 9-2, doing everything they can to just hang on to the coattails of the Detroit Lions to open the door late because they've already lost to them earlier this year. They play them the last game of the season, so they're hoping that the Lions maybe trip up someplace else. They're able to take advantage here with their schedule the rest of the way and make that game at the end of the season, literally in Week 18, be for the division. And Minnesota, this is not how this season was supposed to go for Minnesota. They signed Sam Darnold, but they draft J.J. McCarthy. It's supposed to be the J.J. McCarthy show, and then he tears his ACL. So now you're without him for the year as a rookie, and everybody kind of thinks, all right, you're done, and now you're done in a year where you're supposed to evaluate your rookie. You can't even do that. What is this year for Minnesota? And then they proceed to just start the year by going off on a tear. They blow out the Giants in Week 1. They beat the 49ers in a close game in Week 2. They take care of the Texans 34-7, and they start the year 3-0, and they are super impressive. They beat the 49ers when people thought the 49ers were still good. They beat the Texans before we thought that the Texans are a team that maybe took a step backwards, sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud. And, yeah, what happened against the Giants isn't the most overwhelming thing in the world, but it's the opening game of the season. Team's supposed to be really prepared to face you. You beat them 28-6. So that's what you did the first 3 weeks of the season. That's what you were able to accomplish. You start 3-0. And then you kind of open the door a little bit. You hold on against the Packers. You win 31-29. Signs are kind of there that maybe you're not as good as your 4-0 record indicates. You play the Jets in London. You have you have full control over that game, and then you allow the Jets back in it, but you hold on. So you're 5-0. And people are starting to think a little bit. They're starting to think, I don't know. I don't know if this Vikings team is really, truly a 5-0 team. And then they lose to the Lions. They make a comeback in that game, but the Lions are able to hold on. And then, because this is what happens to every team that plays the Lions, they play such a physical brand of football up there in Detroit. They lose, I believe that was a short week game, to the Rams. So then they fall to 5-2. So everyone's like, see? This Vikings team's not as good as they were at the start of the season. They're not as good as their record indicated. What have they done since then? They've rattled off 4 straight victories to get to 9-2. But let's talk about these 4 games. Barely get by the Colts at 21-13. Go to Jacksonville. You don't score a touchdown. You win 12-7. The Jags were starting Mac Jones in that game. In Jacksonville, you couldn't get anything on this Jags defense. You win 12-7. You play the Titans in Tennessee. You win 23-13. And again, a game that you really kind of had to pull away late. Game was close for a large portion of that game. And then this past Sunday, you're cruising in Chicago, and you allow Chicago in the fourth quarter to come storming back into this game, and you have to win it in overtime. Yet they're 9-2. They are the second team in the NFC North. They are the 5 seed in the NFC playoff picture. So I look at a schedule that recently they haven't played a lot of good teams. They have struggled to win, but good teams find a way to win. That's what the Vikings have done. I look at their 2 losses, all because of the Lions and playing the Lions and then needing to recover from playing the Lions. And then I look at that first part of the schedule where they rattled off 5 straight wins, and that 49ers win has not aged as well as people thought it did in the moment. That Texans win didn't age as well as it did in the moment. The Packers win did. Packers are 8-3. They're a team that's trying to hold on to the coattails of the Vikings, who are holding on to the coattails of the Lions to try to keep pace in that division. That one feels good. The Jets are 3-8. Giants 2-9. Probably going to fire their coach after this week if they lose to the Cowboys. 49ers, we know what direction they're going. The Texans lost to the Titans this past week. Like this schedule, these results, this resume is not as strong as a 9-2 record would indicate, but they're 9-2. So I find myself going back and forth on this. I look at this schedule and I say, man, they're a 9-2 team, but I look at who they've beaten. I look at how they've played recently, their last 4 games, and I'm not scared by the 9-2 record. I'm not scared about being a 3.5-point dog in Minnesota. I'm not scared by that. Then there's the flip side of the coin, and I look at a team that was able to beat the Packers, a team that was able to come close to beating the Lions and held on when they didn't play their best football against the Jags, against the Bears, against the Titans. And I wonder if this is a close game late. This team has the battle scars. This team has been there, done that. They've been through it. And they have the experience to draw on of holding on against the Packers, winning a close game against the 49ers, playing a close game and losing to the Lions. There's value in losing sometimes in the NFL. You can learn from it. Winning a game against the Jags where on the road you only kicked 4 field goals and won the game 12-7. Their resume can cut both ways. I can look at it and say they're 9-2, but I think they're paper tigers. I don't think their record is really indicative of how good they are as a team. I don't think they're as good as 9-2. The Bills are 9-2. Do you think the Bills and the Vikings are on the same playing field? What about the Eagles? Do you think the Eagles and the Vikings are on the same wavelength right now in terms of how they're playing? Look at the way the Eagles played on Sunday night. I haven't seen the Vikings play like that since they played the Lions. And so I look at a team that's got Sam Darnold. I look at a team that has Aaron Jones. I look at a team that has gotten TJ Hawkinson back and has Justin Jefferson and has Jordan Addison. By the way, Justin Jefferson didn't even have a good game in that game against the Bears. That was the Jordan Addison show. So I look at this and and it's a Tuesday. And the reason why we do this starting on Wednesday and into Thursday and into Friday and we do it later in the week is because it allows me to kind of dive into these teams and really kind of think about how I feel about these teams and really kind of get a gauge. What you are getting here on the Tuesday edition of the show is the raw processing of this information that I normally do off the microphone. Because I don't know how I feel about this Minnesota team. I don't know how I should feel about a team that is 9-2 and is playing this version of football and just finds ways to win football games. They do. They're well coached. Kevin O'Connell is a great coach. They have a top-tier running back in Aaron Jones who went for 100. I mean, I look at the box score from last Sunday's game against the Bears. Jordan Addison, 8 catches for 162 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson, 7 catches, 114 yards. Justin Jefferson had 2 catches on 5 targets. There was a point of the game late in the second half, I think it was into the fourth quarter, he had 4 targets and 1 catch. They're doing this, and Justin Jefferson didn't even play well on Sunday. Or they didn't get him the ball enough on Sunday because they have other really talented players. And so in a season that was not supposed to be this, I don't think. This was supposed to be the J.J. McCarthy show, with Sam Darnold being the bridge. Sam Darnold, after sitting in San Francisco, being the backup there, being able to learn under Kyle Shanahan, now gets the opportunity here in Minnesota, and he's probably made himself some money this offseason. Signed a one-year deal there, I believe, in Minnesota, and now has done a really good job. I mean, threw for 330 yards in that game against the Bears. Didn't turn the ball over, 2 touchdowns. I just don't know. He's 9th in yards, 4th in touchdowns. I just don't know, because there's part of me that thinks the Cardinals, this is a good bounce back spot, because this is not a juggernaut of a team. This is not a team that they can't beat just because they're 9-2, just because they're in contention in the NFC North and they're one of the better teams record-wise in the league. You can kind of get scared by going on the road and traveling there. I just don't think I feel that way. Now, I have my concerns about the Cardinals based on what we saw on Sunday, but I don't think it's all of a sudden that they're going to walk into Minnesota and they're going to get boat raced. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to get absolutely destroyed. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're a team that can hang with the Minnesota Vikings the way the Jags did, the way the Colts did, the way the Titans did, the way the Bears did. Do you think about, and it doesn't work this way, but think about what the Cardinals did to the Bears. And now think about what the Bears were able to do to the Vikings and how they were able to keep that game competitive and how they were able to come back. So I don't know. We'll have to make a pick on tomorrow's show. We'll have to decide if it's going to be a part of the Schubert 6. Spoiler alert, it's probably not. But that's where we sit here on a Tuesday. A Minnesota team that's 9-2, despite probably not deserving to be 9-2, not really playing talent-wise like a 9-2 football team, but they are a good team that find ways to win football games. That can be scary, but it can also be an opportunity. And on a Tuesday, I still don't know which side of the coin that I fall on. We wrap up our number 1 of the program here on the other side with the Thanksgiving sides draft. We do it next. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. All right. We're going to wrap up hour number 1 of the show by doing our Thanksgiving sides draft. I also think we should do a bonus pick for dessert as well, if that's all right with you, Producer Corey. I was thinking about that in the hallway.
Yeah, no problem.
Make that the last selection for both of us.
Oh, for sure.
How many... you know what? We probably should have talked this out beforehand, but whatever. Here we are. How many sides do we want to? Because I got to tell you, big sides guy on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm going to unpack some stuff here
All right.
for everybody. I have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
My food cannot touch.
You're a grown adult. What are you talking
My
about?
food cannot touch.
You're a grown adult.
No, I understand that, and I get your point is very well taken.
Come on.
My food is not allowed to touch.
Okay.
I have a problem with things that are in separate, like corn, mashed potatoes, cranberry, all that stuff, stuffing. And we'll get to all this in the draft.
Okay.
If I'm going to put it on my plate, it's all coming from different places.
Yes.
So it has to be in different places on my plate. I cannot combine it together.
No, I agree with that mostly because I don't like the opposite where someone just gets a pile of everything. I'm like, we're not dogs in a bowl here.
We're not putting it all together. So I'm the other end of that extreme. Everything needs to be separate. I have my own plate that has dividers in it.
What?
I bring it with me on Thanksgiving. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I will be bringing it to the place that I will be having Thanksgiving on Thursday. I'll be made fun of for it by this group of friends. I'm very aware of that. But I need everything to be separate.
Okay.
But the other part of why I do what I do is I love sides. I'll get the smallest portion of turkey, and I'll just load up the rest of the plate with sides.
Okay.
So I could draft 7 or 8 sides here.
Yeah.
How many do you want? You want to just do the normal 5 that we do?
I'll do 5. That's
All right,
fine.
We'll do 5. We're going to do 5 sides, and then we're going to have the bonus dessert round.
Yes.
And I'm going to do 2 desserts. How about that? 2
Okay.
desserts in the dessert round. All right, so now we didn't check this in the break. I'm pretty sure that you had the first pick in the Halloween candy draft.
Okay.
And I went back to back. I'm almost positive that's how it went. So because of that, we'll flip it. And I'll go first, and then you'll get the back-to-back.
Gotcha.
So I have the number 1 overall pick.
Okay.
I don't think this would be my number 1 side, but I have to play a little defense here because you're going to get 2 picks in a row.
Yeah.
And I have what my number 1 would be.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to take it because I don't know if people associate this with Thanksgiving as much as I do. So for my number 1 selection, this might be unpopular. Give me the mashed potatoes and the gravy as my number 1 selection.
It's a very safe, universal choice.
I mean, it can go with anything.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what meat you have.
Especially the gravy.
It doesn't matter what. It is a utility side. It's just perfect.
It's dependable.
It's dependable. It's reliable. It's the number 1 side for me.
It's the LeBron of.
It is well.
Get you 30 a night.
The mashed potatoes, yeah. If you do it right, and not instant mash. We're doing this.
Oh, okay.
We're doing this homemade style.
You got time for that?
We're peeling the potatoes.
Okay.
We're smashing the potatoes. We're putting them in the mixer. Absolutely. So that's my number 1 selection.
Okay.
That's you. You're up for 2
All right.
here.
So my number 1 selection starting out, one again, kind of similar to what you did playing defense here. Not my personal number 1.
You're afraid.
But this, yeah, I'm afraid because this is a staple of practically every single dinner. My number 1 is rolls.
Wow, you just went with the rolls.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't hate that. You are correct to have played defense there because I would have taken it at some point.
Yeah.
I do not think it would have been my next pick, but okay, what kind of roll? Are you talking? It doesn't matter for the sake of the draft, but I'm just curious. You would like the dinner roll kind of guy? Are we doing the biscuit type roll? What are we doing?
I really have no preference.
Doesn't matter.
It's weird because, like, under the context of Thanksgiving, the only roll I'm kind of iffy towards, shockingly, is croissants. I saw that one time.
Croissants? Yeah, they're tough.
I was like, that's not really a Thanksgiving.
It's not really a roll either. It's kind of just a thing of bread. It's not really. Yeah, it doesn't really count. All right, so roll's the number 1 pick.
Yes.
Your number 2 pick.
Number 2, I had to take this as soon as I could. I had to go with stuffing.
Oh, he went stuffing.
I had to. It is my favorite.
So you could have taken it at number 1, but you decided to take it
I
at number 2.
figured like rolls was the
fair.
the quicker get.
That's fair. All right, you put me in a bind here because stuffing was on the short list.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe I should have taken stuffing at 1, but
I was shocked you didn't.
I think you would have taken mashed potatoes and gravy though. So that was my concern there. So now I got to think about this.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna put my first one down because this one's easy.
Okay.
And this was gonna be number 1, and it got back to me, and I'm happy with it. And again, this might be, people don't associate this with Thanksgiving maybe the way that I do, but this has been a staple. I can't remember the last Thanksgiving where this wasn't a thing on the table. And we've done it homemade for the last 4 or 5 Thanksgivings, but I always can remember mac and cheese being at the Thanksgiving table.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and was that one for you?
No, that was the one I talked about earlier, where it's like there's a particular side that folks attribute to Thanksgiving, but I don't think belongs in that menu, and that is the exact
So mac and
one.
cheese is your example. So I could have taken it with the number 5 pick. All right, well then I missed on an opportunity there. But mac and cheese for me.
Yeah.
And we used to do homemade.
You don't do the breadcrumbs.
Oh, breadcrumbs on the
Oh,
top.
no,
of
come
course.
on.
What are you talking about?
It's just like, to me, I'll make this quick, I promise. But like mac and cheese is a really good dish. It's delicious in any context. But in Thanksgiving, when you show up with it, it feels like you sort of ran out of ideas.
No.
And you do the
not.
crumbs on top, and that's all you do to
Oh,
it. And it's like, I know you're trying to make this look nicer than it actually is, but I know what you're doing. Like, go further than that. Put like, bell pepper pieces. Put bacon bits in there. Make a real dressed up like creation aside. But you put breadcrumbs on top, and all it does is make it chewier, and that's it.
I don't love this take from you. I can understand you being anti mac and cheese as a Thanksgiving side.
I love mac and cheese.
I love mac. It's one of my favorite dishes.
But you put the breadcrumbs on top. It's like you really think you like accomplished something here, and all you did was just make it tougher to eat.
So I'm gonna do this now, and it's tough. I'm gonna do corn here.
Fair enough.
I'm
Go
gonna
for
do
it.
corn.
Go
This is
for
where
it.
I'm gonna get my vegetable because I don't know another vegetable I'm gonna put down here.
I have one myself.
You have one vegetable.
Yes.
And it's not the stuffing.
Oh, two technically. Sorry, look at my list again.
You're looking at your list. You're up for 2 now.
All right. Let's see here. So friend of mine, number 3, this is one that I understand is like a 50-50 whether you like it or not, but I always appreciate it being there. That being the classic green bean casserole.
I gotta tell you, producer Corey, there's
Yes.
nothing I hate more than green beans.
I understand.
So you can have the green bean casserole.
I get, like, it's not good. It's soupy. I understand
No,
everything wrong
yeah.
with it, but to me, it's like every holiday is kind of like that, where there are parts you don't like, but if they weren't there, it wouldn't feel the same.
There's another thing that might be on your list.
Okay.
That is also the same thing for me, and I don't want to give it away just in case.
All right.
I got to tell you, I'm down a rabbit hole here of looking up on the internet Thanksgiving sides, and I don't know what some of these are. Like,
Yeah.
who's bringing a corn souffle?
Is that just cornbread at that point?
I don't know.
Like,
Could be one of my sides here. You don't
Possibly,
know.
possibly.
So you're up for another one.
Yep, number 4, my other vegetable, I'm going to go, this is kind of a more of a specialty thing, but I like it a lot. Have you ever had that creamed spinach?
Okay, so we're going to open up a can of worms here very,
Okay.
very quickly. I am anti most vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not a fan. So no, I'm not in on I'm not in on vegetables.
Okay.
So you can have, what'd you take?
That cream spinach.
Creamed spinach.
Yes.
That's how much I didn't care for the vegetable. I didn't even remember what you selected because I knew it was a vegetable and it was green.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this story and like, what is a roasted root vegetable panzanella? Like, what is that? That's not a side.
That's somebody
you don't
who's
bring
trying
that.
to really show up the whole family.
Right. I don't know what you're doing. Now this is a great picture of mac and cheese on this website.
He's got the breadcrumbs.
It does not. This one does not have breadcrumbs.
See, I can respect that.
This one does not have breadcrumbs. So what? I'm up for 2. I got my last 2 picks here, and I really don't know what to do here because I don't want to take it because I don't like it. I don't want to take cranberry sauce. You can have it.
You can have it.
It is literally the thing I hate the most.
Yeah.
You took stuffing.
Yes, I
You
did.
took rolls. Those are 2 really good ones. So what am I going to add? All right, I'll do it. I'll do it. It's not my favorite. I'll take some yams here.
Oh, man.
I'll take yams.
I really got you then, didn't I? Goodness gracious.
I don't want to have them, but of the options that are left here, and I'm just trying to think to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, we're all
But
panicked looking like, oh man.
I'm not really sure. There's not. I'm telling you right now, I'm not taking cranberry sauce. It's not happening.
No.
It's not a side that I want. You took rolls, which kind of put me in a bind here.
Gotcha there. I'm not nice, man. I'll take the best stuff immediately.
I don't know if I can. I feel so confident that I'm gonna allow you to go first here because I really don't know what else I want.
So here's the thing. I do have a number 5, but you already took it.
I took your number 5.
Yes, my number 5 was mashed potatoes, actually.
Mashed potatoes. You thought. You legitimately thought mashed potatoes was going to get all the way to the last spot?
Well, I thought it was so basic. You'd want other, more exciting stuff.
That's fair. I will tell you, I'm looking at a bracket here on the internet, and it has gravy separated from the mashed potatoes as 2 separate things.
It can go anywhere you want it to.
I'm not sure that's. I mean, it's not fair. All right, I'm going to do it. Give me cornbread as my last one.
That was my other backup. Okay, fair enough.
I'm going to take cornbread.
Okay.
And then you need one more.
I do. Let's see.
So
what else is
so
there?
far, you have rolls,
Yes,
stuffing,
yes.
something with green beans in it, and then cream spinach.
Yep.
I have mashed potatoes, mac and cheese, corn, yams, and cornbread.
Gotta make this quick. You're running out of time.
And we got to do the dessert now as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, no. I go to next hour, possibly. Regardless. Number 5.
Brussels sprouts. You can take Brussels sprouts.
You know what? If you roast them right, I'll take it.
All right, Brussels sprouts. So, you went heavy on the vegetables.
If they're done well, like with most holidays, the vegetables are covered in butter anyways.
I went first in the regular round. You can go first in the dessert round.
All right. Mine is going to be...
Don't do it.
French silk pie.
What the heck is French silk pie?
It's barely a pie. It's literally just chocolate mousse, graham cracker crust, and whipped cream on top.
All right.
It's barely a pie.
I'll take the better pie. I'll take apple pie, please.
Go ahead.
And then to follow that up, since I'll go back to back, give me vanilla ice cream.
I knew it.
So that I can put it on the apple pie.
Yes, and you want it to melt.
Oh, it's perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. What are you going to add to your French silk pie? Pecan pie?
No.
Pumpkin pie?
I'm not really a pumpkin guy.
I got to tell you, pumpkin, one of the worst flavors you can have.
If it's done right, it's fine.
Pumpkin spice, not good.
It's done wrong in a lot of instances.
It's
but there are some good ones.
Yeah, no.
I will say real quick, my secondary dessert. I'll do cookies and cream ice cream.
Cookies and cream ice cream.
Yeah.
Love that.
That way you can have it by itself and still be happy.
This one was a lot harder than the...
Oh, so few choices.
One.
So few choices.
So few choices. And you took stuffing early. I thought I was going to be able to hold stuffing. Some people don't like stuffing.
That's crazy.
Some people are not a fan. Me, load it up. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2. They're not supposed to be here, but they are. Would a miracle run to the college football playoff change our long-term outlook for the Sun Devils? We'll do it next. Hour number 2, the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Hour number 2 of the program, we welcome you in the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Moving closer and closer to Thanksgiving on Thursday. Just got done doing our Thanksgiving sides draft. If you missed anything from hour number 1 of the show, you can always listen to it back in the podcast feed. Just search the lunch break wherever you get your podcast. You can also catch up on the show on the YouTube side of things. Just search KDUS AM 1060 over there. You can catch up on the show. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation. Maybe you think our sides lists were terrible. Maybe you want to suggest another vegetable dish for us to put on this list. You can do so at the phone number. They're not supposed to be here. We are not supposed to be talking about a team that with a win would get to 10-2 and most likely play for the Big 12 championship. I have to put that disclaimer out there now. We're not supposed to be talking about that this season. We're not supposed to be talking about a team that if they win on Saturday and then win the Big 12 championship game, will be in the college football playoff more than likely in a home game in their backyard because they'll get a bye in the first round of the college football playoff. That's not supposed to be on the table. That's not supposed to be what this conversation should be on November 26th. But here we are. When I first started working here and we started putting together what this show was supposed to be, name, logo, what time we were going to do it. We've been working on this since we started in October. We've been working on it since the beginning of September, end of August. Been working on. It was the start of the college football season. At no point in the planning out of what this show was going to look like at the beginning did I anticipate spending this much of our November talking about ASU football. It was not in the plan. But here we are. So a team that's not supposed to be here. Tonight, it's going to be the highest-ranked Big 12 team. They will be in the projected bracket, the Big 12 representative. They will be the team that is getting a first-round bye, probably the 4 seed amongst the 4 conference championship winners. So here we are, spending today and tomorrow getting you ready for a really important game on Saturday. So let's ask this question. If they won on Saturday, and they won the Big 12 title game, and they went on that miracle run to the college football playoff, would it change the long-term outlook that we all have for this team? Would it change the conversation that we would have about this team and this program? Would a run that included a Big 12 championship in your first year in the conference and representing the Big 12 in the college football playoff, would it finally allow us to have the conversation that many people in this market and outside of this market have been attempting to have for a really long time? They have referred to ASU when they were in the Pac-12, and now that they're in the Big 12, they refer to them as a sleeping giant. I've been hearing it ever since I signed the paperwork to go to the school. That was the summer of 2012. It's 2024. It's 12 years later. I'm still hearing how ASU is a sleeping giant. If they just get the right investment, if they just get the right people, they are a sleeping giant, and they are a team that is destined to do great things because of where they play, the weather, the location, the school itself, the programs that they have. That they are a sleeping giant of an athletic department. That's what I've been told. Ever since I stepped foot on the campus to take a tour, that is what I heard. Sleeping giant, ASU, Sun Devils. That's what they're supposed to be. So if they reached the highest of highs, certainly would be the highest of highs that I've seen since becoming a student at the school back in 2012, now being an alum. In my 12-year run here in the state of Arizona, going to the college football playoff, winning the Big 12, would be the peak that they have gotten to in my 12 years here. Would that be the thing that changes this conversation? Would that be the thing that allows us to truly have the conversation that this team is a sleeping giant? It's why in hour number 1 of the show, I mentioned how this game this Saturday takes on a whole different meaning, a whole different magnitude. It is now the biggest game that this team has played in a really long time. It is bigger than the Notre Dame game in 2014. It's bigger than the game they played last week. It is a road game against your arch rival with everything on the line. The game that Kenny Dillingham is going to coach in his what has been a short run here at ASU, only in his second season, this will be the biggest game that he has ever coached in. This will be his huge opportunity to show the world that ASU is for real. Now, we can have the debrief next week if they lose and talk about what the season still means. We can do all of that. But that's the pressure going into the game on Sunday or Saturday. That is the pressure going into the contest. So if they do it, if they beat U of A, they go to the Big 12 championship game, can we officially call this team a sleeping giant? I'm not willing to go that far. I'm willing to say this, and I don't think I need Saturday to answer this question. I don't think I need a Big 12 championship win to answer this question. I know this program has a head coach. I know this program has a leader. I know this program has a culture builder. We throw that word around a lot, culture. We throw that term around, building a culture. We throw it around a lot in sports. You hear coaches, managers, when they're hired, they talk about setting the right culture. Kenny Dillingham has done that already. He is that type of coach. He has got his players completely bought in because the energy and passion that he has for this university is unmatched. I don't know anybody that can match his level of enthusiasm that he has for this program. So I've got that answer. I don't need a win on Saturday to prove that. I don't need a Big 12 championship win in Arlington, Texas to prove that. Would those be nice? Absolutely. I want to watch the Sun Devils respond because it was last year in Kenny's first year that U of A came up here and it didn't go so well for the Sun Devils. Now it's time to return the favor on Saturday, and you return the favor by also punching your ticket into the Big 12 championship game. But I don't need a win on Saturday to know that I think the long-term health of this team is in good hands as long as Kenny is here. But the other part of being a sleeping giant, it's really hard in college football to have sustained success. We live in a different era now. The transfer portal, NIL. There is no guarantee because in years past, this is 10 years ago. This is 2014 when they're playing Notre Dame. Sam Levitt's the quarterback, Kenny Dillingham's the coach, and we have all this belief. The thing that we would be talking about is, man, this is just the beginning. Sam Levitt's only a freshman. He can't go pro until his junior year. So you got at least 2 more seasons of Sam Levitt here. Right? That's the conversation we're having. Wow, this is just year one. Look what they're doing in year one with a freshman quarterback. They're going to potentially be playing for a Big 12 championship game. Look what this could be next year and the year after, and you can start to dream. You can't look beyond this season. You don't know. You don't know if, and I'm not picking these players out on purpose. I don't know anything about them, but Jordan Tyson's a big-time wide receiver. You don't think that somebody's going to offer him a lot of NIL dollars to potentially transfer? You don't think Sam Levitt is going to get some opportunities? That's the way college is now. That's the way the transfer portal game is played now. That's the way the NIL game is now. Can't fault any of these players for doing it. You don't have to like it, but it's just the way it is. Nothing about 2025 for the Sun Devils is guaranteed. Nothing. So to have this conversation about sleeping giant and what this could mean, and this is just the start of something. It could be. It could be. This could be the start of something. It could be the middle of 2025. We're still doing this show. You're joining us here on your lunch break, and we will be talking about an ASU team that is having a good season again next year in 2025. That is absolutely on the table. Absolutely on the table. You know what's also on the table? That this program looks vastly different into 2025. And Kenny Dillingham has a lot of work cut out for him to try to re-gel a roster, to develop a culture all over again because of how many new faces are in the program. That's the way college football is right now. So you have to look at what is in front of you as the only opportunity. You can't look at the future. Don't know what the future is going to be. So with this game on Saturday, does a win on Saturday change the complexity long-term? Does it change the long-term outlook for this team? I don't think so. College football nowadays is a year-to-year proposition. In pros, in the pro game, pro football, pro basketball, pro baseball, it's about windows. Opening your championship window, your competition window, where you have multiple years, multiple kicks at the can to be able to try to break through and win a championship, right? You don't have that in college football. You don't have that in college basketball. You no longer have that in college sports. It does not happen. Not with the movement of talent that occurs on a year in, year out basis. And so for ASU, I can't think about sleeping giant. I can't think about long-term outlook. You just can't do it. You have to be in the present. You have to be in the here and now. And so Saturday, this team, they're not supposed to be here. They're not supposed to have this opportunity. They've taken this opportunity. They have worked extremely hard to earn this opportunity. And on Saturday, they have one game to put the icing on top of the cake of their season. And at that point, they can say they've achieved everything. 10-2, playing for the Big 12 championship game, beyond our wildest expectations for this program. They can say that they have done it if they win one more game. What that means for the long term, unfortunately, we have to wait until the end of the season for that. We have to see what the NIL deals look like. We have to see what the Sun Angel Collective is up to. That's the unfortunate nature of college sports. You can't get excited about this being the start of something and that ASU being a sleeping giant because this is year one. They have to show us that they have developed something, that they have developed a program, that they have developed a pathway to get players here on a regular basis. In year one, you just have to be excited and join the ride. Coming up on the other side, well, here we go again. Another week of wondering if he is going to play. This week, it sounds the most optimistic thus far. We'll do it on the other side next. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back to the program, The Lunch Break. KDUS AM 1060, 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join us here. Got you till 1 o'clock. If you haven't already, download the KDUS AM 1060 app. You can listen there to the program, to all of the shows here on the station. You can take us with you on the go. If you also are logged in and registered while you are listening, you have a chance to win rewards. So a lot of good stuff coming, not just the end of 2024 here, but also into 2025. So you're going to want to have downloaded the KDUS app today. Make sure you register, you log in, and you listen there. Because if you're already listening to the station, you might as well have an opportunity to win stuff in the process. So make sure you download the KDUS 1060 app today to be able to get in on that action. Last week, we spent a large portion of our week talking about the potential returns of Jonah Williams and Darius Robinson to the Arizona Cardinals. In the case of Jonah Williams, it would be a return to the starting lineup after going out in week 1 against Buffalo. And in the case of Darius Robinson, it would be making his long-awaited NFL debut after getting hurt in the preseason and having missed all the way up until this point, right? Those are the two conversations that we were having last week. And when it came to Jonah Williams, the other conversation was, does it make sense to put him back into the starting line? Does it make sense to upset the apple cart? Does it make sense to rock the boat? Your offensive line had been cruising. I know you had a 35-year-old journeyman there at right tackle. You signed Jonah Williams to be the starting right tackle, but things had been moving pretty well. You had won 4 in a row. Your offense hadn't given up a ton of pressure. You were gaining ground in the running game. Why would you upset the chemistry? We said that if Jonathan Gannon was going to do that, he had to feel really good about the way his room would respond to that. He made the decision. We got into that yesterday here on the show. Well, Darius Robinson didn't play last week. He was inactive. Now, every week since they brought Darius Robinson off of injured reserve, and every week that we have been doing this dance of will he or won't he, paying attention to what he does at practice and in the available portion that the media is able to see. What's he doing? What's he up to? What are the coaches saying? What does the injury report look like, right? Wednesday rolls around, and we like to see where Darius Robinson is on the injury report, and then Thursday, and then Friday. And all of last week, it was limited. We were talking about him potentially playing in the game on Sunday and what it would look like. And I warned against this when we had the conversation about the draft, about the trade deadline. I said, I don't know if a good enough answer is Darius Robinson is around the corner, because the trade deadline came and went. And since that trade deadline came and went, the Arizona Cardinals haven't had Darius Robinson. Now, it looks like he is on track. That is the word that is being used in the building. On track to play on Sunday. Those words, those phrases have not been said up until this point. So Jonathan Gannon being a little bit more open with the media tells me that it looks like we're on pace. But let's face it, this looks like the scenario I outlined a couple of weeks ago, where he's going to come back and it's going to be a slow process. He's not going to play 100% of snaps on Sunday. He's going to be very limited in what they ask him to do. I don't know what the exact number is going to be, but it might be shocking to some of you, the actual number of snaps that Darius Robinson plays on Sunday. He hasn't played since the preseason. Hasn't played serious competitive football since around this time last year. Did a lot of offseason work in training camp, preseason. It's a glorified scrimmage, basically. Hasn't played real, meaningful, competitive football in almost a year, give or take. What's he going to play? 25, 30 snaps? That might be on the high end. So then another week is going to go by with Darius Robinson not really being the impactful player that the Cardinals thought they were getting with the number 1 overall pick. So it will be 12 games gone this season without the impactfulness. This is why we felt so strongly about making a move at the deadline. You couldn't guarantee me that Darius Robinson was going to be able to be an impactful player. Because now, if he only plays 15 to 30 snaps, he might be impactful with those 15 to 30, and that's a boost to this defensive line, but not the impact that an Azeez Ojulari would have made, who, by the way, what are the Giants doing? They decide not to trade the guy. He gets hurt. Looks like he's now going to miss the remainder of the season. Like, what are we doing? That was a tailor-made deal that the Giants could have done at the end of the year, or at the trade deadline, because he's a free agent at the end of the year. Don't understand what they're doing. Lot of question marks about what's going on in New York. But Monty Ossenfort and the Cardinals decided not to do that. They decided that was not going to be the approach that they would take. So here we are, wondering again if Darius Robinson is going to play. We are left wondering once again what his role is going to be. We are left wondering once again when he is going to be able to be at 100% and give this team 100% output, 100% production, and be the player that the Cardinals thought they were drafting in the first round. Now, it's not his fault. He got hurt, but here we are. The Cardinals are playing meaningful football games, and instead of doing something at the deadline, and Baron Browning doesn't count, this is the path that they chose to go down. And here we go with another week where it's going to probably come and go, and it's not going to be full steam ahead for Darius Robinson. It's not a good look. It's not an approach I agree with. There was not a huge long-term sacrifice that Monty Ossenfort needed to make in terms of draft capital to get somebody into this building. Now, mind you, the defense has been playing fine. The defense is not a problem. But you don't think you could have thrown the defense a bone? You don't think you could have done them a solid and got them a reinforcement? You had to now put all the pressure on this kid because you don't think he's feeling the pressure to have to come in because he's been sitting on the sidelines all year hurt. He's a rookie trying to make a name for himself. You don't think he feels that pressure? You don't think he feels the need to ball out and slide right into this defense? Because what you don't want to have happen is him slide in the way Jonah Williams slid in on the offensive side and the boat gets rocked a little bit defensively. You don't want that. That would be bad. That would be a tough look. And so here we go again, another week where we are going to go through the roller coaster ride of emotions. We're going to check the injury reports. We're going to see how he looks in practice in the portions that are available to the media, and we're going to see if he's going to play on Sunday. But again, the defensive side of the ball has been playing pretty well. And I'm not going to have the same conversation, I think. I don't think I feel this way. But I don't worry about putting Darius Robinson back into this group the way we kind of worried last week about putting Jonah Williams back into the offensive line. Right? We had some concerns. We laid the pros and cons out there. We said, man, this is a real tough decision for Jonathan Gannon. I would hate to be in his shoes. I don't know if it's as difficult to put Darius Robinson out there. It's a group that's banged up. It's a group that's testing all of their depth. He's a first-round draft pick. Put him out there in a rotation because it's a group that already has a rotation as it is. It's pretty easy. It's pretty just you wipe your hands of it and you say, Darius Robinson is available to us for X amount of snaps. We're putting him out there for X amount of snaps. And it doesn't really impact a whole lot. But truly, what can realistic expectations for this kid be? I don't know. I don't know how many snaps he's going to play. I think 30 snaps would be a lot. I mean, let's do some quick research here about how many plays the Seahawks ran on Sunday, just to use that as a gauge. Now, it changes week to week about how many plays a team's going to run, but let's just look at how many plays the Seahawks ran. They ran 61 plays. Cardinals ran 56 plays. The Seahawks ran 61 plays. You think he's going to be out there for 30 plays? 50%? I don't think so. I don't. It's going to be very situational. It's probably going to be third down, obvious passing situations, and you're going to get him in there a handful of times. That's probably what it's going to look like. And then the next week, it'll stack. You'll see how his body responds to playing in a game and the workload, and then you'll increase it. But I think we're talking the Patriots game for this to be anything close to 100%. That's 3 weeks away. That's December 15th. And yet we didn't do anything at the deadline other than Baron Browning. That's the decision that this organization made. I hope it doesn't come back to bite them. It hasn't so far. The defense played well, not the reason they lost on Sunday. But you've got 6 games to go. 3 against the division. Teams that are going to play hard. The Vikings are going to play hard. You're going to get a great effort from the Seahawks. The Patriots and Panthers just this past week put out good efforts. The Rams and 49ers, their seasons might be in the balance. You don't have, I think the Patriots and Panthers are 2 very winnable games. The Cardinals need to win those football games if they want to be taken seriously. But you're not going to have somebody you can walk over, like teams walk over the Jets or the Giants or Pick another team. It's not that many of them, but pick another team that's like that. So we'll see if, when we get there, that the wheels haven't fallen off of this defense because they just ran out of steam. Week 12 is in the books after last night's Monday Night Football game. Maybe we'll get to that in the leftovers, but it is time for us to do the post-Week 12 power rankings. We'll do it next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back to the show. The lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Chris Schubert with you. Got you till the top of the hour. We have a lot to get into today and tomorrow, and we're jamming about 4 days worth of shows into 2 days here because we're out Thursday and Friday. A little programming note, obviously Thanksgiving, we're out of here not doing a show on Friday, so we will be back after tomorrow's show on Monday to recap everything that went on in the sports world over those couple of days. And that means we have to do a lot of our post-Week 12 stuff. That includes the power rankings. So every week, I give you my top 10 teams in the NFL after a given week. We update it every single week. So this is the post-Week 12 edition. And we'll start with our honorable mentions. And I'd like to tell everybody that putting together the honorable mentions is getting harder and harder every week because these teams stink. These teams are bad. I've got 2. That's it. Only 2 teams felt worthy of making the honorable mentions. And I got to tell you, these 2 teams both lost this week. I couldn't put Seattle in here. They're 6-5. The Cardinals, they're out of the top 10. Let me just warn you now. I got the Commanders in there. They lost, but they're 7-5. I got the Texans in there. They lost, but they're 7-5. What do you want me to do? Put Atlanta in there?
But they have moxie.
What do you want me to do with these teams? I got nothing. I can't do anything with Houston.
They have a fighting spirit.
I can't do anything with Washington. I can't do anything with Arizona, Seattle, Atlanta. The Dolphins, I know they've won 3 in a row. They're 5-6. What do you want me to do here? I'm boxed out. I don't have choices. So those are your 2 honorable mentions. The Texans and the Commanders. I'm not even going to give them the time of day with why they're honorable mentions. They're just there. Have fun. Enjoy your spot. At number 10, again, what do you want me to do? Okay? Houston, Washington, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Falcons. These are all the teams that we could consider for this spot. What do you want me to do? The Chargers are number 10. I don't know. They lost last night on Monday Night Football. I don't know what you want me to do. I think they're better than the Texans. I think they're better than the Commanders. I know they lost to the Cardinals. I think they're better than the Cardinals. What do you want me to do? The 10 and below, who cares? All of these teams lost. There's nobody that's done enough momentum-wise. Like Seattle, I know they won. They took over first place in the division. That's not enough for me. So the Chargers are at number 10. Let's see how they respond. They responded well to the Cardinals' loss. Rattled off a bunch of wins, played a good football team last night in the Baltimore Ravens. Let's see how they respond to this loss and see how they play moving forward. At number 9, you can't ignore them at this point. It's not pretty, but Sean Payton has the Denver Broncos playing really good football. He has Bo Nix as a rookie really just executing this offense at a really nice level. Cortland Sutton's been really good. Bo Nix is doing really well. They have a running game. The defense is solid. They're 7-5, just kind of trotting along in the AFC wildcard race. They're not going to pretend they're something they're not. They're not trying to really catch the Chiefs. They're just kind of humming along, winning football games, taking care of business, 7-5. Still, their ceiling is capped out at what Bo Nix is able to give you as a rookie. And I don't think they're as talented on paper as some of the other teams. But they're 7-5. So they get the number 9 spot this week. At number 8, falling down the board a little bit, I believe, from last week, the Pittsburgh Steelers. 8-3, holding on to that division, although Baltimore closed the gap with their win last night. But Pittsburgh, you want to say it was because of the snow? You want to say it was because of the short week? Whatever excuse you want to put on that game, that's fine. They still lost to the Cleveland Browns. And I docked the Baltimore Ravens after it happened to them. I'm going to dock the Pittsburgh Steelers because this is kind of who the Steelers are. They're good enough to where they can win games and they can play up to their opponent, but they're also not that good. They'll play down to an opponent. They have a talent disparity. They kind of played down to the Cleveland Browns and opened the door, and the Browns took it, and they now sit at 8-3, so they are number 8. We talked about them in hour number 1 of the show. They're 9-2. So on record principles, they should be higher than this. But I've watched this team play the last couple of weeks. I watched them almost blow the game to the Chicago Bears. I watched them only muster 12 points against the Jaguars. I watched them barely beat the Colts and the Titans. I know you're 9-2, and your record is... You are what your record says you are, right? It's the old Bill Parcells saying. You are what your record says you are. You're 9-2. You're 1 result away from being in a statistical tie for first place in the NFC North. I get it. I'm aware. I just don't think they're that scary. And as you can tell, there's not a lot of good teams behind them, right? Pittsburgh, Denver, the Chargers, the Texans, the Commanders, all these teams. So they'll go above all those teams because I believe in them more than those teams because they've done it more than those teams. But I don't think, and this is the way I look at situations like this, the 6 teams that I have in front of them, I would pick all 6 of them to beat the Vikings. Doesn't matter where they play. I would pick all 6 of these teams over the Vikings. So let's talk about those 6 teams. We'll start with the team that absolutely needed to have it last night, because if not, we would have spent more time on this show today talking about them continuing to just lay a goose egg when it matters most. They didn't. They won the football game last night. The Baltimore Ravens defeated the Chargers. They got to 8-4, moved closer in the division to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's going to come down to the wire. Another win for the AFC North, pushing the Bengals further and further out of contention there, making it a harder hill for them to climb up. Again, that's another team that normally you would expect to be in these power rankings, but they're having a down year this year. So it's a lot of just mediocre teams here at the back part of this list. But the Baltimore Ravens, I said yesterday that if they lost this game, I would be done with them for a long time. That they would just have to show it to me over a lengthy period of time, because it would be another big spot for them where they would have laid a goose egg. They didn't lay the goose egg. They won the football game. They beat a Chargers team that was coming in hot. They took care of business. And I think I'm not all the way back, but I'm not out. They moved me back to closer to the place where I was a believer of them. I think Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in football, one of the best athletes in the game. What he's able to do, he's special. He's a difference maker. I mean, he is a X factor. He can change a game. But it just feels like in these big spots, they struggle. They didn't last night. They won the football game. They are number 6. Number 5, the Green Bay Packers. They welcomed in a depleted 49er team. Didn't have Bosa. Didn't have Purdy. What the Green Bay Packers did at home, they said, great. You don't have your quarterback. You don't have your best player defensively. We're going to kick your behind like we're supposed to. We're supposed to win this football game by 2 scores. We're supposed to dominate you because you don't have your best defensive player, because you are starting Brandon Allen, who is dealing with an injury at quarterback because you don't have Brock Purdy. We're supposed to kick your behind. So that's exactly what the Green Bay Packers did. You reward that. They are the number 5 team in the power rankings this week. I used the phrase earlier. The Lions, the top team in the NFC North. The Vikings holding on to their coattails. The Packers holding on to the coattails of the Vikings, holding on to the Lions. They're all just trying to hang on. They're all just trying to stay in the mix. The Packers did it in a big way by beating the 49ers. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs has been awesome. What a huge day for him on Sunday. 3 touchdowns. They understand. We're gonna pound the rock. And we've got a quarterback that can make throws, but we're gonna play physical Green Bay Packer football. We're gonna run the ball. And I know we don't have Aaron Jones anymore, but we got Josh Jacobs, and he was dicing up the 49ers. Dicing them up. Was able to do that. They are number 5 this week. Number 4, the Philadelphia Eagles. They've got Saquon Barkley. And we'll talk about this a little bit in the leftovers, because there's a growing momentum. There's a growing buzz about Saquon for MVP. I'll save my thoughts on that specific question here in a second. But what you cannot deny is Saquon Barkley has been a difference maker for this team. Saquon Barkley came into a situation where a lot of us, myself included, thought the Eagles were trending downward. The way they played in the second half last year, the way they started this year, it felt like coach, team, players, coaches just felt like they were butting heads, felt like it was a powder keg, right? And they've done nothing but put their heads down, and they have played excellent football. They've taken complete control of the NFC East because Dallas is a mess. Washington's lost 3 in a row. We don't even need to mention the Giants. They've taken full control of the division. They're 9-2. They are keeping tabs on the Lions for the top spot in the NFC to have home field advantage. They are playing excellent football, and it is in large part because Saquon Barkley unlocks so much for them on the offensive side of the ball. The top 3 teams. The Kansas City Chiefs at number 3. Look, I made this motion on yesterday's show. I'm going to reiterate it here today for those of you who maybe didn't join us yesterday. The Kansas City Chiefs are out of the Schubert 6 for the time being. They're on the do not bet list. They're out. I'm not doing it. Because I don't care how big or how small the number, they're going to play every game close. And until they show us that they're not going to be able to do that, now this is not me saying they can't three-peat. I'm not going to say that. I don't know if they can cover every week. And at some point, Vegas is going to react to this. At some point, Vegas is going to properly, I think, put a number out there. I'm going to quickly look, because I didn't look at the spreads for this week yet. I'll do it for the Schubert 6 tomorrow. But I knew I wasn't going to look at the Chiefs game because we're not betting the Chiefs. We're not betting any game that they're involved in. See, Vegas hasn't learned yet. Now, maybe they cover this, but it's Kansas City minus 12.5. They were 10.5-point favorites on the road in Carolina against a bad Carolina team. Carolina almost beat them. The Raiders kept things close till the very last second against the Denver Broncos. I'm sorry, the Kansas City Chiefs are a stay-away team for me. They're 10-1. They're the third team here in the power rankings, but I think they are opening the door for them to get picked off by a bad football team. The Bills, who gave them their first loss, they were not a bad football team. They were a good football team. The Raiders, 2-9, bad football team. We've seen this story before. Happened on Christmas last year? The Raiders did this? Certainly think they could do it again. They're going to have Aiden O'Connell starting that game for them this Friday. The top two teams, you know who they are. They're the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Bills on a bye. The Chiefs didn't do anything to change how I feel about them. The Lions, it wasn't necessarily the prettiest thing in the world. It probably could have been a bigger blowout. Could have gotten Amon-Ra St. Brown a touchdown for the Schubert 6. But they went into Indy. They played exactly the defensive effort that you would want to see from them. They put up 24 points. Jahmyr Gibbs scored 2 touchdowns, and they got out of there with a victory, and they're 10-1, tied with the best record in the NFL. That's it. That's who this team is. It's going to go in, they're going to take care of business, and they're going to be at the number 1 of the power rankings each and every week. So quickly, to recap here, number 10, the Chargers, number 9, the Broncos, 8, the Steelers, the Vikings, 7, the Ravens, 6, the Packers, 5, Eagles, 4, Chiefs, 3, Bills, 2, Lions, 1. That, your post-Week 12 power rankings in the NFL. On the other side, we wrap up the Tuesday edition of the show. The Leftovers, they're next. KDUS, AM 1060. Back to wrap up this edition of the Lunch Break. KDUS AM 1060. We appreciate you joining us. Last call, 480-864-1060. You want to get into the show here before we wrap up here on the Tuesday edition of the show. We've got ASU women's basketball coming up at 2 o'clock. The pregame starts right here on AM 1060 with tip-off at 2:30. Producer Corey's got you covered there. He'll be pushing all the buttons to make sure that happens. So that starts at 2 o'clock here today. So you've got 1 hour of Doug Gottlieb, and then you're going to get ASU women's basketball the rest of the day.
Yep.
as they continue to. I got to tell you, there's a lot going on here. We got ASU women's basketball that's underway. NAU men's basketball is underway. NAU football is in the playoffs. That game you can hear right here on 1060 on Saturday.
Yes.
Their playoff game. So a lot on the live sports docket here on the station. So a lot going on in the local market with these teams. So we've got ASU women's basketball coming up right here at 2 o'clock. Jeff Munn starts with the pregame show at 2 o'clock. So you can catch that then. So I mentioned it briefly when we were discussing the Eagles in the power rankings, but there's a growing conversation about Saquon Barkley for MVP. And I'm normally the first person to get on board with bandwagons like this. I'm always looking at these awards and saying, why do we always have to do things in the traditional way? Why does the MVP always have to be a quarterback? There are times where a player probably could make a case. The Heisman, right? A defensive player for the Heisman or a non-court. Like, there are times where we can have the conversation to go maybe non-traditional when a pitcher should maybe win the MVP in baseball, right? We can have those conversations. And I'm the first person to champion for somebody that I think is deserving of an award that isn't getting the necessary respect that they deserve. And I understand the year that Saquon Barkley is having. I can't get on board with this. I just can't. Because if you take Saquon Barkley off of the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't know how much of their offense is different. Is he having a statistically great season? Absolutely. Is he a large part of why they are having success? Yes. He's adding an entirely new dimension to their team, right? They have been piecemealing it together for years at the running back position. This year, they decided to invest some coin, some dollars. They got Saquon Barkley. They stole him from New York, right? There's probably a little added juice on top of it that he can torture the Giants and their fans 2 times a year. And he's been awesome. He's been great. He is going to be the offensive player of the year, right? And I would love to get on board with this, but I just can't do it. I can't. Because I think if you take him off the Eagles, maybe they win 1 or 2 less games, but they're probably still winning the NFC East. They're probably still as good of a team. He has added something to them, but I don't know how much of it would be different. And when you want to make a case like this, when you want to make a case for somebody to be an MVP that's maybe a non-traditional candidate, right? In this case, a running back. Or if I was going to make the case for a pitcher in baseball, right? It's an uphill climb, right? You pitch once every 5 days. I have to make the case that you are so dominant when you are out there that you override the fact that you only play 1 every 5 days. In football, you are not the signal caller. You are not the quarterback that makes everything go offensively. You got to give me something that if you weren't on this team, their quarterback stinks, you would be in the cellar, and it would be just a complete 180 from where you are now, and I just don't think I can make that case. So I appreciate that Barkley is getting his flowers, but this MVP conversation, I just can't get on board with it. I have a bunch of baseball stories to get to. I will start with the one that is the most disappointing to hear. Producer Corey, I would love to get your natural raw reaction to this because you don't know this story. So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to think about this from the context of being a fan of this team. You no longer live in Arizona. I've put you on a plane. You are now a resident of Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
You are now the biggest Tampa Bay Rays fan there is.
Oh.
Okay? And I'm sorry to do this to you, but for the sake of this story, you are a Tampa Bay Rays fan.
Okay.
And we talked about this on a Leftovers a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a week or 2 ago.
Yes.
That their stadium torn up in the storm. Mm-hmm. They're going to now play at the Yankees spring training home for their season. Well, they're going from being in a dome to being outdoors. You know what happens in the summertime in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
So it rains a lot. It is so bad that Major League Baseball is thinking so far ahead on this. Here you go. The Rays are going to play 47 of their first 59 games at home. They are then going to play 69 of their remaining 103 games on the road.
Oh.
That is how worried Major League Baseball is about the summer weather conditions for the Rays at home. They are now, and here's the problem with this. You may think, oh, this just affects the Rays. No, it doesn't, because it also impacts everybody that they're going to play. 47 of their first 59 games are at home. They moved a bunch of series. They put out a press release yesterday. There was a Minnesota Twins series that they moved. So that a 3-game set that was originally scheduled to be in Minnesota at the start of the year is now actually going to be played in Tampa. And then a 3-game set that was supposed to be played in Tampa is now going to be played in Minnesota. They're swapping the dates on the calendar. That could change everything. Could change everything, because now what could be maybe a homestand in the middle of the season that could be a momentum builder for a team, now all of a sudden you got to go on the road, and it makes it a lengthy road trip. Now, I don't know the specifics of all of the changes that they've made, but they made all of these changes to the schedule. It has impacts all across the board, all because a storm rolled through Tampa and completely destroyed Tropicana Field, and because this segues into the second story that I want to talk about with the Rays. Because that's not going to be their long-term home, that they're trying to build another stadium, there isn't really an appetite to sink millions of dollars to fix it when you're probably going to be playing elsewhere. So it's really difficult. So if you're somebody down in Tampa, which we made producer Corey for this story, and look, their attendance isn't great, but the ballpark they're playing in is going to hold about 5,000 people. It's probably going to be a sellout most days. You got to get there early. 47 of the first 59 are at home. That's it. There's your chance.
Yeah.
Like, think about it in this way. The Cardinals play 17 games. They play, some years it's 9, other years it's 8 home games. Let's say it's 9 home games. Could you imagine if 6 of their first 9 games of the season were at home, and then they only played 3 home games the rest of the way? That's basically what you're doing to the Tampa Bay Rays. In their first 59 games of the season, 12 of them are on the road. Think about this. The average series is 3. So they're going to play 4 times over the first 60 games of the season on the road. That's what they're going to do. And oh, by the way, on top of this, they've also been told that they have until Sunday to decide if they're going to commit to the $1.3 billion stadium project. That's it. They have until Sunday. They were postponing the decision because they wanted to hear from the city about the bonds that we're supposed to pay for a decent portion of this. They have now been put under the pressure of, you got to tell us by Sunday what you're deciding to do. This isn't from Major League Baseball. This is from local officials down there. And by the way, I want to let everybody know, just want to let everybody in on a little scoop. Pay attention to the way the Rays are handling their situation with local officials, because there's a team that I know of that's in a neighborhood close to you and I that's trying to get renovations done to their stadium. And there's a lot of conversation about maybe going to a new stadium or maybe going to a different city. A lot of conversations about that, aren't there? And maybe it's posturing to be able to get things done, but pay attention. These stories don't happen in a vacuum. So we'll see this weekend whether or not the Rays are going to pony up the money to build their new stadium, because they're playing at Steinbrenner Field for at least this season. They're paying the Yankees to do so, and they might have to do it for a couple years after that. And oh, by the way, because of that, they have to play 47 of their first 59 games at home, and then 69 of their last 103 on the road. And if you think this is a one-year isolated incident, if they have to play at Steinbrenner Field beyond 2025 into 2026, you're going to be doing this every single year. This is not sustainable. This is not a sustainable solution. And so Major League Baseball has to hope that they can get this sorted out sooner rather than later. One more baseball story for you. We learned yesterday that the first offers for Juan Soto are in. And I wanted to get to this a little earlier in the show, but a lot of football for us to do here today and tomorrow, so we'll do it here. There are 5 teams that submitted their offers for Juan Soto. It's the Yankees, the Mets, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, I believe, were in there, and I forget who the 5th team was that submitted an offer for Juan Soto. But the first offers for Juan Soto are in. And apparently, these first offers are just to gauge everybody's interest. The Dodgers apparently have also offered him a contract. So those are the teams. So Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Red Sox, Blue Jays are the 5 teams that have offered contracts to Juan Soto. But apparently this is just the gauging interest phase or stage. And they're going to look at these contracts, see where everybody's at, and they might rule some teams out. And then there's going to be a second round of offers. It feels like we are watching baseball's version of The Bachelor. Will you accept this roast? But it's kind of the reverse. These teams are putting their best foot forward. Who knows what these deals even are? We haven't gotten any leaks about numbers or anything. We know he's looking for a 12 or 13-year deal. That's going to start with probably a 6 or a 7 in the contract, meaning $600 or $700 million. It's a lot of money. Could do a lot with that money. And so this is just round 1. But I said it yesterday. I'll repeat it today. This feels like we are trending in the direction for this to have a resolution sooner rather than later, meaning by the time we get to the winter meetings, Juan Soto will have picked his new team, or maybe he's returning to the Yankees. And the rest of the offseason can get underway because everything is just log-jammed right now. Log-jammed. A fun edition of the lunch break in the books. We've got one more for you this week, and we've got it all for you tomorrow. A full breakdown of Cardinals Vikings. We'll have to do the Schubert 6. We'll do the NFL look ahead. A jam-packed Football Wednesday edition of the show. We will get you set for everything for your holiday weekend. We appreciate you joining us here on the Tuesday edition of the show. Everybody make it a great rest of your Tuesday. See ya!